Welcome, Michelangelo.
It's a pleasure.
I'm still impressed with our series of webinars we did this spring. I'm hoping for more this autumn.
Yeah, it was a nice initiative. I really enjoyed. And then if you ask me, I received very good feedback from everyone. And now there are a couple of meetups mid-September and October.
Can you share
Yes,
a bit
very.
more on the speakers?
Yes, it will be the first one is Tom Gilb. He already came in July, I think. He will talk about tools for implementing agile more at stakeholder levels. It's pretty nice. I mean, it's an old guy, great experience. The father of agile, say it's impressive. And the second one is Roman Pickler, specialized in product ownership, product management. And we'll talk about the new book and the product owner role. Great
Wow,
speaker. Yes,
impressive.
yeah, well, thank you.
That sounds like a mini conference already.
Well, just opportunity to share what is worth, and that is exactly what we have done together, because you were part of all of this and you brought other great speakers.
Great. So I'm pleased we have all these great plans for the autumn. We are using this occasion to invite the audience, but tonight is about yourself.
Yeah, well, you talk. Yes, you want to ask me question. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, okay, absolutely. I mean,
You're on this hot chair tonight. Just for the audience to know, I planned it to be a kind of surprise interview. There's three parts of the interview, and I would like to start with your kind of personal style section, if you like. I would like to start asking you about what is the source of your satisfaction when you are coaching organizations?
when I coach organizations and I coach people, because to me, coaching organizations means coaching people. Major reward comes from people when you see major changes. You know, when someone want to share the current situation where the client is, and you understand that there are problems, issues, and you start working with these people, the level of intimacy is very high. And at the end, you see positive changes. This is so rewarding, especially when you do true coaching and you don't try to convince your client, but you just try to get the most from themselves. And that is a major source. One other major source for satisfaction is the passion that I have for things, and like coaching. I bring all my passions when I do coaching, and you saw me, right? When we do workshops or we organize conferences, I bring about anything about my passions, like audio recording, video recording, and so I really like to do something with sharing my passions. That is another things that I like to share with everybody.
Yes, I saw you definitely. I had the privilege to see you in action, and your energy and your passion were just contagious.
No,
I
you're
know
too
it's
good.
a tricky
You're too
word.
good.
It's a tricky word
Yeah.
these days, but yeah, it's clearly contagious. So, how your engagements typically start?
Yes. Well, usually they call me on the phone. I'm joking. Of course, someone will call me and ask, would you like to come over and then coaching us? And it's not like that. I mean, there are big transformational programs, and especially with large organizations, you have to apply for the job sometimes. And you feel that that kind of work is all right because you like the company, you like the challenge. But also when you are there, you need to clarify the nature of engagement. This is something that I included in one work that I have done many years ago with other people, is the Enterprise Agile Manifest. I don't even remember the name because there's some work that is online and someone is still using this work. I think it was kind of a joke, but in reality, we brought our ideas together. And then the first principle, if I'm not mistaken, is about clarifying the nature of engagements. You need to make this clear. It's not only for you, but it's for your client as well, because client sometimes doesn't know what he or she really wants. And as a company, they want to improve, they want to start agile, but sometimes they only have money and resources. And yes, good willingness, which is not enough. So you need to clarify the nature of engagement. That's for sure the first thing that I usually try to do.
Yeah, it happened to
Um,
me sometimes that, as I say, they call me, invite me to
mm,
join them, but they already have a plan, right? And they don't let me even have a look around and build my own feeling what would be valuable improvements. They just sometimes want me to execute their plan, right?
oh, yes.
And I
Yes,
think
tell me about it.
this principle you're mentioning to align.
Yeah, you need to align each other, and also even if you want to be flexible, because well, sometimes it's not about doing coaching only or training or doing other things like mentoring, but you need to clarify what you are looking for exactly, right? And
Mm.
then once you have done that, you can work establishing the kind of intimacy with your client, right, and report with your client. But before that, you need to sometimes only acknowledge what it is, right? Or in other case, just say that, well, just to clarify what you are looking for. And then, of course, move forward, right? But this is the first step. Mm, yes, definitely.
And it's a fragile moment to say hello. I appreciate your work you did so far, and I appreciate your plan, but let me add my perspective into the
Yeah.
picture because this is what you're paying me for, right?
Well, I made many mistakes, and this happened many times. Last client, which I worked with for 1 year, at the beginning, actually, we got interviews, we passed interviews, we discussed about ideal scenarios or, well, styles, approaches, experience. But in the end, I realized that there was no plan. There was nothing there. It was just the idea, the willingness from some people and budget, which is a good starting point to say, let me try something different. But the rest of the organization is not aligned with this vision. So they don't know. They probably want something different. And most likely, especially when there are many coaches, you will be assigned to departments or area. And then you need to clarify again with this area what exactly are possibly the benefits and what they want. This simply is what are their expectations. Yeah, you need to do that, definitely.
Mhm. So now let me ask you a question about the success. How do you recognize the impact you've been making?
Well, in my experience, for many years, I genuinely put the best, all my resources and energy. And we have done maybe together with other people, great people, but without, creating a sort of visible roadmap about interventions, successes, or moments important to share, and understanding, of course, the client's journey and map the client journey. So it is for sure when you can recognize the initial state and the target state. So if the new state where the client is, it's definitely better. He can enjoy more the new state. The work is better than before. That is the moment when you realize that. But you need to clarify this again with your client. So together, not only sharing activities, especially in Agile, that people are, coaches are very knowledgeable about how Agile works. And they start introducing of practices, methods and things. But what is really important is that everything you do should be done for your client and then to move your client forward. So this is what I usually tend to do, is identify these moments where the client, first of all, become aware about the current state. So the
Mm.
client needs to become aware where the client is, where I am now at the moment, and then where I want to be. So any intervention that you will put in practice, you need to measure, of course, your journey. And then finally, when the client again, with more awareness, realizes that moved forward, that is the not the end, but it's definitely something that you can say, well, it was a good. And any recognizable change that happen because you, this is another possibly measure to understand if you were successful or not.
Right. And, and has it ever happened to you that the sponsor was okay with non-numerical measure? It's like non-financial measure, or some kind of, happiness index or team morale, or
Mm,
something that is not directly measurable, because this is also something that creates friction between sponsors and agile coaches often, that sometimes you have to wait for the financial KPI to be fulfilled, right? And you start, as you said, with rebuilding people.
uh-huh.
How, in your experience, measure the change in organizational culture, or in behaviors, or living
Mm.
the new values of the organization?
In my opinion, organizations or any initiatives, especially when they bring in coaches or agile coaches, they wait for coaches to introduce how to demonstrate the goodness behind, of course, any interventions in agile, which is wrong in my opinion, because you as a client should call someone because you have a clear idea what you want. You want to probably achieve better things. And in business, it's the same. So you are incapable as business owner or leader to understand, of course, how to measure yourself. So you can't expect that someone who comes over to help you will come as well with the magic sticks and then try to measure, of course. Yes, we have an idea about happiness, about flexibility, and we can measure, of course, the way how we work. But have you ever thought about that? Probably, even if we can measure the flexibility in user stories or flexibility in rejected stories, just to mention some kind of metric, if introducing stories or product management is good, and probably is wrong for your company. So you are measuring, or so start measuring something which definitely proves that you made some reasonable change, but are those change compatible with yourself? Well, that's another story. So to keep the long story short, I believe that you as a coach are responsible to establish that kind of report with your client to first understand what kind of intervention you want to put in practice, and then start understanding what you mean by improvement. And you as a client need to understand first how much important is, which is basic coaching approach, to be honest. So the coach is responsible to ask questions, and the client needs to understand, if not immediately, what is for me as a client, what means for me improvement, and how can I measure, of course, that what we are doing is valuable. Because if you want to measure the amount of money that company earned after 1 year of agile, it might be linked to agile, but might be linked to other factors. And that brought me to why I'm doing systemic coaching and I'm not doing only agile coaching, because agile itself makes a lot of sense in software development, which is the place where agile was defined, conceived. And anybody can say, well, it's better than doing waterfall. No point. The problem is, does this make sense for marketing or for other people that are doing other things, or for business manager who are not even acquainted with the concept of software development. Doesn't mean anything. And you would you like to say, are the agile principles valuable? Yes, they are. But together with other tons of principles, it doesn't mean that agile is the magic stick for everything. So if you are doing an intervention, agile intervention, you cannot be sure that that intervention will be translated in money or in a better financial year at the end. So you can't do that. If the company survives, it's because agile. If the company survives, it's because many multiple factors, and agile is one of these. So you need to open up your mind, start thinking and looking with different eyes. That is exactly what I'm trying to do doing systemic coaching.
Fantastic. Because my next question is really about, you already mentioned this, but
I'm reading your mind. But
it's
because we
really,
know each other, that's the trick.
it's actually about systemic coaching. Because when I enter your website,
yeah,
Michelangelo Canonico.com, it says the first thing I see is systemic coaching, right?
yes.
And you already mentioned this. So I would like you to kind of shed more light on how you interpret systemic coaching and what it is in your opinion.
Yeah, that's nice. It refers to what I'm doing now. I'm so passionate about systemic coaching, but it wasn't something that I started with many years ago. It was more or less 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It happened by chance, as many things in life. And I was coaching an organizations in Scandinavia, and then we were talking about the opportunity to coach teams and the organization, and still about how was inefficient this sort of coaching approach born or designed for individuals, how agile coaching is much close to sport coaching than real coaching to people or executive coaching. So to keep long story short, again, this guy, really great person, told me, I'm joining a program in London with another guy that's called John Whittington, and it talks about systemic coaching and constellations. I said, well, it sounds great, especially the second part, constellation, what you are talking about. He said, I don't know, I'm just going there and see what happens. So he went there, and the class was full. I was not able to join him, so I had to wait for 3-4 months. And the first time that I joined, and I was part of constellations or constellating, which has some resonance with the family constellations. It's more close with this technique. It's more applicable within families or history of your family. There were some concepts as well very interesting, like mapping and the systems, but definitely was something strange and I would say weird. Anyway, my friend just attended that course, and then I give another shot to that opportunity, and I attended the second class. And I was saying I'm not really convinced, but then something changed in my life and say that, well, you know what? I want to be open to explore other ways or other way of thinking, and so I joined the practitioner program, which was very long, for 2 years, and going in outdoor for, well, we went in Spain, this nice area we were isolated completely and doing meditations and other things. And then I solved some issues that were totally covered by layers and layers, and I was not able to understand, even speaking with friends like very great psychologists or other coaches. You know, when you do something and you don't realize why you are doing something, because what was missing to me was the big picture, to open the door to other aspects that are influencing and affecting your life. So, for instance, when you do business, and have you thought about to whom are you working with? So who is the person that is next to you? What kind of issue they have? And this person can work with ease if has family issues, very, very big family issues, can work with these if he didn't solve or she didn't solve problems from other area of belonging. So you don't have to run, mysterious activities to solve all of this. And I'm talking about constellations. It is a different fact. Because to me, systemic coaching is do coaching with the system in mind. When you do an intervention, I want you to become aware what kind of impact, what you are thinking, what you want to achieve in respect with the system where you are, which also brings to us the attention to the work environment, so where you are working, right? And we need to consider in terms of leadership, for instance, who is the leader, right? How does the leader pay attention to people in reality, what they really are? Kind of, I call this lens of belonging, where we experienced and we touched for many years, or sometimes for just a small period of time. And these are impacting our life. So systemic coaching is coaching with the system in mind. It's something that you do, and it's focused towards organizational health, not only people health or department health. You don't have to be blind. So you want to do agile. Okay. What kind of impact doing agile are you generating around you? Are the other people aware of what you are doing? Is the only thing that you want to consider, right? And the only difficult thing is to do this, you really need to be open. The company needs to be open. And this is not something that I feel all the companies are ready to move into. And this is the only thing. It's kind of an uncharted territory at the moment. But when I applied the technique and I shared these ideas with other coaches or other executives, and we started some program, well, the results were astonishing. I'm so impressed that I decided to switch over this approach now.
So from what I hear, it's systemic coaching puts the focus on the context of not only on the goals themselves, but it tries to achieve goals by very deeply understanding the context of the change and the environment.
Exactly. And there are many theories behind this. If you don't want to only refer to what is not possible to understand, right? Because speaking of constellations, and there was the idea that constellations are something that you can't explain. And in reality, you at some point have to accept just the benefit of doing something. You don't have to ask why it's working, right? Because you will never get an answer. But in more practical terms, when you are doing something and you want to achieve your goal, so you are a business leader, manager, or a team, and you want to go towards a goal because you see the goal, and systemic intervention starts asking the client to map or visualize the boundaries. What kind of lens are you working or moving around in order to achieve the goal? So you need to become aware what happened to me and also to the other organizations when I do this. Have you thought about, you do agile, and let's assume that one goal is to reduce defects, which is great. All coaches talk about how to reduce defects. Nice. You do practice because you really know your job and you are very knowledgeable on agile. You introduce new methods and the team reduce the number of defects. Right. At some point, this clashes with another part of the organizations because now you are not making defects anymore. And so they cannot blame you anymore. So, and the problem is because the other part of the organization didn't solve serious issues, they're probably going to shut down your program. And this has happened many times, especially when you become more and too much competitive on the market, right? So we have seen those kind of reactions many times. And this symbolizes the problem that you have so many issues at the systemic level. And probably you were too in a rush trying to just apply one method without really understanding what's going on. So, but you need to become aware. And this is a very honest approach because now people are prepared. about what means doing something, moving a step forward, any leaps towards any ideal goal, but with more awareness about the context, right?
Right. Okay. Sounds like a deep discussions at the beginning of the engagements. But also, I think from what I hear, you actually try to enter on the level on which you can actually solve problems, right? I mean, changing
Mhm.
practices, introducing frameworks is just on the practice level, but with systemic coaching, you can actually work deeper beneath the practices, more on the.
Well, you can still be focused on agile practices, in which I believe very much, but confined where they belongs. And we cannot solve all the issues and all problems doing agile. One issue is when you try to apply a scrum everywhere, so like the magic
Mm.
stick, and then especially in areas that they cannot apply scrum because scrum doesn't belong to that areas. This is only, of course, the top of the iceberg, because when we are so passionate about something, the agile revolutions, yes, but the agile revolution is only one thing and one aspect. And besides, if you think carefully, agile was a reaction to a problem. And usually when you do this, you tend to cure the wound, and it's not, unfortunately, is not removing the root cause, right?
All right. Okay. Thank you for this. And again, I don't know how you're doing this, but you actually started talking about in the context of my next questions, having this retrospective view on what happened in agile movement
Mm.
so far. I mean, it's been 2 decades. And I think I agree. I saw more and more people and coaches who are saying we reached some kind of end of applying of blindly applying agile, right?
Mm.
And I would like to ask you, like, what outcomes of these 2 decades of agile are
Well,
most
what,
spectacular or important in your opinion?
what I was mentioning, lightweight frameworks in software development like Scrum or the extreme programming,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was an improvement, big, huge improvement. So we can now say that we finally found a better way to do software. And this is incredible because we have better ideas how to create software development teams, right? Which, by the way, everything is based on software nowadays. So we can extend this kind of culture, understanding how to build up our company in some cases. And then this was proved working very well in some engineering companies, or where engineering culture is in place, like Spotify. And because everything is conceived around software development, but this is not always the case, right? But there are something incredible. Lightweight frameworks and the concept of minimum viable product is great.
Mm.
So this is definitely the takeaway. So lightweight methods, that works very well in software development. Someone would agree in the fact that Agile itself brought fresh air in the industry, but it brought more confusion, in my opinion, as well. So now, for instance, if you go in other countries, like, but I believe in everywhere is the same thing. You move slightly outside from software development, they have totally different idea about what agile is. They probably associate agile with smart working, or or other concepts, or being more flexible, or jumping out. They don't know. And the problem of the new generation is the internet connects any buzzword or word and spread out and around and bring about the message so quickly that everybody's accustomed with the label, which isn't saying that they know what the label means. And they say, yes, no, I know agile. Yes, yes. Do you really know? Yes, yes, of course I know. I don't believe so.
Fantastic. I think uh, when you started talking about people outside of software development, I had this thought in my mind that I saw I saw many times saw people who were doing agile in unconsciously, right? So they were
Mhm.
unconsciously competent in agile. They didn't even heard about agile, and I, on the other hand, what is funny, I saw many companies who invested lots of money in becoming agile, and they were clearly still lagging behind.
We ran too fast, and in my opinion, that was in part due to the speed of internet, and then how much we can communicate now and share ideas from everywhere. And it's also we are looking for more and more. This is normal, right? It's how our brain works. Um, but I stumbled in something interesting recently, and I think it was a couple of days ago, where this Indian coach shared this idea. He just said, karate master is a master in karate. A judo master is a master in judo. A scrum master is a master in scrum. And now I said, well, now it doesn't resonate because you ask me, have you thought about judo? I mean, I know probably I practiced judo and you practiced another martial art. Are you a master in that martial art? No. And have you thought about how have to work hard to be called master? But you can be called scrum master in 2 3 years.
Wow.
So now there is something wrong. And I tell you, I will tell you what is wrong. It's that you are obliged to introduce junior scrum masters with no experience because everything is going so fast and so fast. You need to wait for so long, and companies are not ready to wait for really systemic intervention, as I said, although it's my favorite one.
Yes, awesome. Uh, uh, we will see. Yeah, and that's again my question. What we will see, like what agile movement needs most at the moment to continue making impact after the 2 decades.
Uh,
If we can speculate a bit, or
but there is a risk that this sounds not really agile, but agile should move a step back and coming back to the origin. Coming back to the origin means understanding the place where they have to work and where agile works very well. It's in software development. We need to stop trying to change the world using the agile word. It doesn't work really very well, in my opinion. But this is, of course, something that it seems like, as I said, I mean, it's risky, but it also comes along with the idea that my idea that agile at the moment, the agile movement is in confusion. Even if you believe that no, we clarify everything. Now we know very well how to become Scrum Master, Agile Coach, or Enterprise. Well, try to ask this question to someone who is very close to an Agile department, doesn't know anything about Agile, and then you will get no answer or strange answers, right? So it's in confusion. And to avoid this confusion, you need to completely move towards renewal, which will be start doing something different. And the community tried many times to implement new enterprise framework, and we saw what happened with scaled agile frameworks and other big frameworks. You created more confusion, right?
yeah.
Bring back, step back, becoming smaller, something that works very well, and open up the door for other interventions that are more effective, in my opinion.
You left me speechless. Yes,
Oh,
this is
thank you.
no,
Quite a
this
nice.
really like I feel similarly in this topic. I think I really like loved the roots and the origins, and I really liked agility 10 years ago and several years ago. And I think as at least as a part of retrospective, we should we should do another cycle, starting from the very beginning of agility and rediscovering this original notion. This is, I think,
Where I was applying Agile in 2005, although we were totally innovative and people and companies were not ready at all to adopt Agile, but we were using Agile in small startup and it works. It works very well. So we need to admit that it's a completely different way to do software, right? Development. So yeah, indeed. I mean, you don't have to try to convince anybody. But I mean, I'm start laughing if I think that when there are no teams, where I mean no teams are people grouped together because they are doing activities and they belongs to one department, but they don't act or behave like a team, a cohesive team. And then there is someone who comes from the door saying, "So let's do the sprint planning." But we are not working in a team. Yeah, but let's do the sprint planning. Let's do the daily stand-up. I was like, "Oh, this sounds so weird."
wow. Okay,
Oh,
that was fantastic journey with you tonight.
thank you, Piotr.
Thank you, Michelangelo.